Hello and thank you for watching this regional forecast for the southern U.S. I'm Andrew Pritchard, Senior Meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, our first real impressive cold front of the season as we transition from summer into fall is making its way across the lower 48. It will stall out though, not make it through much of the southern U.S. as we head through the middle part of the week. It will impact parts of Texas and Oklahoma as it sort of pivots across the region, but muggy 70s out ahead of that, 40s and 50s back behind it, even colder as you head into parts of the Rockies and the northern plains. Along and generally behind the front, we've got shower and storm activity ongoing from parts of Nebraska into Iowa and Missouri, and then on into parts of the Great Lakes early this morning. Clear across much of the southern U.S. this morning. Should be a very beautiful morning there. A lot of folks seeing some sunshine here across the southern U.S. So you look at the radar picture again, all sorts of rain and thunderstorm activity along and generally behind that frontal boundary from the high plains into the Great Lakes and the eastern Corn Belt. Some scattered showers here across parts of eastern Texas, and then some scattered shower and storm activity generally off the coast here, off the coast of Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. We could see some of this shower and storm activity begin to pivot into coastal regions here as we head through the next couple of days. Now, as we look at the total precipitation forecast over the next 7 days, along that frontal boundary that's going to stall off to the west, again, several inches of rain possible from central Texas into central Oklahoma. That's where the heaviest rainfall is expected over the coming week. A bit of a dry window in between that, then across eastern Oklahoma, eastern Texas, getting into Arkansas, parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, especially over the next few days. We'll start to work some of that rainfall activity in again across parts of the coast. I already showed you some of that across the Florida, Georgia, South Carolina coast here, and that shower and storm activity will begin to move inland over the next couple of days. As we look at the hazards map from the National Weather Service, a medley of colors across the western U.S., anything from freeze, frost warnings here. We've got winter storm warnings across the Rockies, winter weather advisories, frost advisories, wind advisories, and then as you head further off to the west, it becomes much more of a critical fire weather situation. We've got strong winds and extremely low humidity moving across the western U.S. We have red flag warnings in effect across almost the entire states of California, Nevada, eastern Arizona, getting into western portions of Oregon and Washington. Again, very high fire weather threat there as we head through the next couple of days. Now we're bringing the rain into parts of the central U.S. without much in the way of severe weather. We're looking at the severe weather outlooks over the next 3 days from the Storm Prediction Center, and not a marginal risk to be found there, just a general thunderstorm outlook across the central and southeastern parts of the country, and accompanying a couple of frontal boundaries, the first of which, again, that very stark front from the panhandles across the central eastern Corn Belt here, shower and storm activity, again, generally behind that as we take moisture and bring that up and over the top of the frontal boundary. And again, the winter weather impacts here across parts of the Rockies. As you head further off to the southeast, there's that little ridge, that subtle ridge that's going to keep us drier here across the midsection of the southern U.S. over the next couple of days, giving us, again, a very beautiful Tuesday. And then as we head into Tuesday night now, I'm going to show you the slow progression of the frontal boundary, how it sort of pivots along the southern edge here, moving across parts of Texas and Oklahoma. Doesn't make any further southern progress, though. Across parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, getting into southern portions of the U.S. here, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. This is the front now as we get into this is Wednesday morning now. This would be Thursday morning. And then as we get into Friday, that front starts to wash out across the region. The reason for that, our upper level low here, this is the big system on the western half of the country. It cuts off and spins away here across the western U.S. This is now Thursday afternoon. It's still parked here across the Rockies. It doesn't finish the job, whereas a week ago when this cold front popped up on all of our radars here, this trough remained attached to the main branch of the polar jet stream here and was just kind of progressive. It dove across the midsection of the country and then continued to swing from west to east, dragging that cold front with it, bringing the cold air mass much further to the east across the central U.S. and eventually into parts of the southern U.S. That is not the case anymore. Now this upper level low spins across the Rockies for a few days before eventually meandering back across the northern U.S. into the Great Lakes, being picked up once again by the northern branch of the polar jet here and then lifted across the northeast and then on out of here, allowing ridging to set back up across the midsection of the country. We could turn warmer across the central U.S. as we head into next week. So what does that do with the temperatures? Again, the front starts to move down, but it stalls. With the upper level low just sitting across the Rockies, it no longer has any reason to move across the midsection of the country. So again, while we see this thing kind of pivot, allowing some of the cold air to move into parts of Texas and Oklahoma, it's not going to make any more progress across the rest of the southern U.S. So we keep it warm and muggy very warm and muggy across parts of Louisiana and Mississippi and Arkansas. Will really bring some heat back in there as we get into the middle part of the week, mid and late part of the week. And then again, that front just never making its way into the southeast as the low cuts off across the western U.S. We'll look at the moisture content within the atmosphere. Again, that little ridge keeping it a little bit on the drier side across the middle of the southern U.S. We've got tons of moisture running up and over the top of our cold front here in Texas and Oklahoma. We've got lots of moisture coming in from the Atlantic across Florida, getting into Arkansas and the Carolinas as we're starting to get to the mid to later part of the week. But it's going to be a little bit later into the end of the week, into the weekend, before we start to turn thunderstorm activity back on in any large-scale fashion across the center of the southern U.S. here. I'm talking again about Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi here. We'll look at that with the precipitation forecast. Then the high-resolution NAM model will take this through the next several days. Again, you can see the shower and storm activity most numerous across Texas and Oklahoma. We'll bring it back, though, and look at eastern portions of the southern U.S. Scattered thunderstorm activity possible over the next couple of days across coastal portions of Alabama and the Carolinas, getting into the state of Pennsylvania. The peninsula of Florida is where I was trying to go with that. We'll take this into Wednesday morning now. Getting into Wednesday afternoon and evening. Scattered thunderstorm activity across the southeast. Quiet across the south. Rainy across Texas and Oklahoma. Take this into Thursday night now. Wednesday night into Thursday morning now. And again, the theme continues. Heavier rain possible across Texas and Oklahoma. Central and western Texas and Oklahoma. A scattered thunderstorm threat across the peninsula of Florida into Georgia and the Carolinas. Quiet across Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Total precipitation between now and midday Thursday. Here you can see the impacts of that little ridge across the region. Heavy rain from Texas into Oklahoma. Scattered showers and storms from the peninsula of Florida up across coastal portions of Georgia and the Carolinas. Quiet over the next few days across Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and much of Georgia as well. And we'll take a little bit longer range look here with the European model. Again, heading through the day today into tonight. This is now Wednesday. Wednesday night, getting into Thursday. Heavier rain across Texas and Oklahoma. Scattered rain across the peninsula of Florida, getting into Georgia and the Carolinas. Again, I'm sounding like a broken record at this point, and then dry in the middle here. We'll begin to bring that thunderstorm activity back into central portions of the southern U.S. as we get into the end of the week and the weekend. This is when we'll start to turn on much more in the way of widespread rain and thunder. So just over the next week on the left, we're once again looking at the next 7 days total precipitation accumulation forecast. And then on the right, I'm showing you the probability of picking up 1 inch or more of rainfall between now and Saturday evening. And again, you can see that darker red shading where we've got more closer to a 90 to 100% chance. It's going to be focused across western and eastern portions of the southern U.S. That best chance for some soaking rain across Texas and Oklahoma. Again, central portions of Texas and Oklahoma, you're on the drier side as you head into eastern Texas and Oklahoma. Drier conditions continuing across Arkansas and Louisiana, Mississippi and Alabama, and then at least the western half of Georgia. And then again, you bring in a better chance for some heavier precipitation across Florida and then coastal portions of Georgia and the Carolinas. Again, just be glad you're not in parts of the Rockies here, Colorado and Wyoming. 12 to 18 inches of snow possible there in some of the higher elevations. We'll see some windier conditions across parts of Texas and Oklahoma associated with that front as we head through the day today and tomorrow, with those winds quieting down by the time we get to Thursday. Quiet as we talk about winds across the remainder of the southern U.S., generally below 5 to 10 miles per hour over the next 4 days. Again, we'll watch that cold air mass park itself over the Rockies across Texas and Oklahoma before being modified again, we're still in early September. With the jet stream just cutting it off there, eventually we're going to warm that air mass back up as it sits over the land here. With warmer conditions continuing across the southeast. Look at the high temperatures today. Anywhere from the 30s and 40s across the Texas and Oklahoma panhandle to the 90s, then across Arkansas and the remainder of the southern U.S. A bit cooler as you head off toward coastal portions, toward the east here, where we got some clouds and rain in the area. You can watch this front start to wash out here as we head into Wednesday and Thursday. 60s across Oklahoma and Texas, 90s across Louisiana and Arkansas. Quite the contrast there. And you see this air mass being warmed then as we head into the next few days. So you look at those overnight lows, we could see sub-freezing temperatures tonight into tomorrow morning across parts of the panhandles, 30s and 40s across the remainder of western Texas and Oklahoma, but then Business as usual as you head across the rest of the southern U.S. Overnight lows in the muggy 70s across the southeast.